Whoa, did you see that? I mean, Arsenal, just wow. Dismantling Real Madrid 3-0 in the Champions League. You just don't see that every
No,
day.
you don't. It makes you question everything. Forget the history books, forget the predictions.
Hmm.
This was huge.
Huge is an understatement. I mean, was this just a fluke, a one-off where everything went right for Arsenal? Or was it something more like a tactical masterclass that we should be studying for years to come? That's what we're going to try to figure out today, using some pretty cool AI-powered analysis to break down this match.
Exactly. We're going beyond just watching the highlights. We're going to delve into the tactical nuances, the key decisions, those moments that swung the game so dramatically in Arsenal's favor.
It was a tactical demolition job, really. When we talk about a masterclass, I think that's exactly what we're talking about. That relentless pressing, the way they exploited Real Madrid's weaknesses, especially out wide and on set pieces. And of course, we can't forget Declan Rice. Those free kicks, just incredible.
And don't forget how solid Arsenal's defense was against some of the best attackers in the world.
Yeah, that was impressive too. So we're going to look at all of that, but also dig into the data, the metrics that really tell the story of Arsenal's dominance. And of course, we'll try to understand where Real Madrid went wrong, particularly in that second half. Plus, we'll explore some of the big questions this result throws up and look ahead to what might happen in the second leg.
I think it's safe to say that second leg is going to look very different.
Right, let's get started. So, right from the first whistle, many fans noticed Arsenal were all over Real Madrid. That high press was intense. Our analysis shows that they actually held on to the ball for nearly 70% of the first 15 minutes. Against Real Madrid, I mean, come on, that's a statement, isn't it? What impact did that early pressure have?
It was suffocating, really. They completely choked Real Madrid's attempts to build from the back. You see, Arsenal's forwards and midfielders weren't just chasing the ball, they were cutting off passing lanes, forcing Real Madrid's defenders into rushed clearances and turnovers deep inside their own half. That created those early chances that Arsenal were so quick to capitalize on.
And they didn't just win the ball back, they won it back in dangerous areas.
Precisely.
Okay. So then, when Arsenal had possession, our analysis shows that the wingers, Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli, were crucial in stretching Real Madrid's defense and creating those dangerous situations from the flanks. They seem to be having a field day out there. How did they manage to be so effective?
It was a combination of using the width of the pitch intelligently and making these dynamic runs. They weren't just staying wide. They were constantly looking to get behind the Real Madrid fullbacks, creating those overloads when Arsenal's fullbacks joined in.
So basically, Real Madrid's defenders were constantly in a tough spot.
Yeah, exactly. Do you track the winger going inside, or do you stay wide to cover the overlapping run? They couldn't do both, and that's where Arsenal really punished them. Those crosses and cutbacks were deadly.
Now, we have to talk about set pieces. Declan Rice, 2 direct free kicks. Can you believe it? His first ever. That changes the game in an instant, and against Real Madrid, no less. What does that tell us about Arsenal's approach to set pieces?
Well, it certainly wasn't luck. It tells us that they had a specific strategy for set pieces, that they've been practicing, working on those routines. It's not just about having someone who can strike a ball, it's about the angles, the positioning of other players to create space and distract the goalkeeper. It looks like they identified a weakness in Real Madrid's setup, and they ruthlessly exploited it.
Yeah, 2 perfect strikes like that, that's no coincidence.
Absolutely.
And many fans noticed that it wasn't just the goals from Rice, it was his presence throughout the game. He was everywhere, breaking up Real Madrid attacks and pushing Arsenal forward. So, was his role simply about individual brilliance, or was there something more tactical at play?
Well, I think it was a bit of both, to be honest. Rice's talent is obvious. His athleticism, his tackling, his vision. But Arsenal's midfield setup gave him the freedom to showcase all of that. The other midfielders did their jobs, covering space, winning their own battles. That allowed Rice to roam, intercept passes, and launch those attacks. He was like the engine of their midfield.
Okay, and then of course on the other side of the ball you have Arsenal's defense. This is a team that has some of the best attacking talent in the world, but they were pretty much shut down. Our analysis shows that Arsenal's defensive shape was very compact and organized throughout the match. And David Raya in goal, he came up with some big saves too. What made their defense so effective?
Discipline, basically. They closed down the spaces between the lines, which made it really hard for Real Madrid's creative players to operate. They were tracking runners, communicating well, and when Real Madrid did break through, Raya was there to make the save. To keep a clean sheet against a team like that says a lot about their defensive structure and individual performances.
Yeah, definitely a team effort. So we've talked about what we could see, but the data really paints a clear picture of Arsenal's dominance too. Experts suggest that they specifically targeted Real Madrid's left side with their pressing. Why that area in particular, do you think?
It seems like they spotted a potential vulnerability there. Maybe it was the defensive work rate or the positioning of certain players. Whatever it was, Arsenal's focused pressure in that area aimed to disrupt Real Madrid's usual build-up play, forcing them into uncomfortable positions and increasing the chances of turnovers. It was a calculated risk that paid off big time.
And we already touched on the set pieces with Rice's goals. Our analysis strongly suggests that they had a clear plan for maximizing their threat from those situations. It wasn't just hoping for a bit of luck, it looked like a well-rehearsed strategy.
No question. Set pieces are often overlooked, but they can be game changers. It looks like Arsenal has specific routines designed to exploit weaknesses in Real Madrid's defensive organization during dead ball situations.
And then defensively, the stats show that they were incredibly compact, shutting down passing lanes and limiting space. Real Madrid only managed 3 shots on goal the entire match. That's almost unheard of for a team with their firepower.
It speaks volumes about Arsenal's discipline and organization. They effectively shut down Real Madrid's main threats, denying them space and time on the ball. It was a masterclass in defensive strategy.
Many fans also noticed that Arsenal consistently created these overloads on the flanks, particularly on Real Madrid's right side. This led to a lot of dangerous crosses and attacking combinations. How were they able to create that numerical advantage out wide?
It often came down to coordinated movements from the fullbacks and midfielders joining the attack in wide areas. By having an extra player arriving late, they created these 2v1 or even 3v2 situations, which gave Real Madrid's defenders all sorts of problems. This is a classic tactic for creating scoring opportunities, and Arsenal executed it to perfection.
Looking at the overall stats, they really underline Arsenal's dominance. An expected goals xG of 2.4 compared to Real Madrid's paltry 0.26 tells you everything you need to know about the quality of chances created. And on top of that, Arsenal outshot Real Madrid. They had more shots on target, they had better passing accuracy, they won more tackles, they won more aerial duels. I mean, the numbers don't lie.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
They were superior in almost every aspect of the game.
So let's flip the script now and talk about Real Madrid. Where did it all go wrong for them tactically? Our analysis points to some pretty clear flaws, especially in that second half. Experts have highlighted their vulnerability to set pieces as a key weakness, and we saw that play out with 2 of Arsenal's goals. Why do you think they struggled so much in those moments?
To concede 2 goals from direct free kicks in a Champions League knockout match, that's a major breakdown in their defensive organization. It suggests a lack of preparation, maybe a lack of communication or focus. It was a glaring weakness that Arsenal exploited brilliantly.
And then there's the midfield battle. Our analysis shows that Real Madrid's midfield was unable to control the game at all. Arsenal dictated the tempo, they controlled the territory. Why couldn't Real Madrid's experienced midfielders impose themselves?
They were outplayed, outnumbered, and outmaneuvered. Arsenal's midfielders were more energetic, more disciplined, and they had a better understanding of their roles, both offensively and defensively. They closed down space effectively, they won important tackles, and they disrupted Real Madrid's attacks time and time again.
And many fans observed that after conceding that first goal, Real Madrid's defense just seemed to lose its shape. Gaps started to appear, and Arsenal took full advantage. What do you think caused that defensive collapse?
It's often a combination of psychological and tactical factors. The pressure mounts, and if you don't have a clear plan for reacting to a setback, things can unravel pretty quickly. It looked like there was a breakdown in communication, a lack of coordination, and that's when Arsenal pounced.
And perhaps the most surprising thing of all, Real Madrid's attack, with players like Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. on the field, was completely neutralized. Only 1 shot on target the entire game. That's just not the Real Madrid we're used to seeing. What do you think contributed to their attacking struggles?
A few things. Firstly, Arsenal's defensive organization was outstanding. They limited space, they prevented those key players from receiving the ball in dangerous areas. Secondly, Real Madrid's lack of control in midfield meant that their forwards weren't getting the service they needed. And thirdly, the constant pressure from Arsenal disrupted their rhythm, their flow. They just couldn't get anything going.
This game raises some really interesting questions. Did Real Madrid's reluctance to change their defensive setup show a lack of adaptability? They seemed to stick to their plan even when it was clearly not working.
Adaptability is crucial in modern football, especially at this level. Sticking to a plan that wasn't working played right into Arsenal's hands. It raises questions about their in-game management, about whether they had a plan B.
And was Arsenal's pressing just great planning, or did it also expose weaknesses in Real Madrid's build-up play?
Probably a bit of both.
Mhm.
Arsenal's pressing was very well executed, but Real Madrid seemed to struggle with that intensity. It suggests that maybe they're not as comfortable under pressure as they could be.
And then there were those defensive issues at set pieces. Did Real Madrid's structure just completely fall apart in those situations? It looked like they had no answer for Arsenal's deliveries.
It seemed like a specific weakness that Arsenal had identified and exploited. Their marking was all over the place, and they didn't have a clear strategy for dealing with the aerial threat. It's something they'll need to work on if they want to turn this tie around.
And what about the midfield battle? Was Real Madrid's performance just a case of individual players having a bad day, or was there a deeper tactical issue?
It looked more like a tactical mismatch to me. Arsenal's midfield worked together so well they completely nullified Real Madrid's key players in that area.
Okay, and finally, let's talk about Declan Rice. What a performance. Two stunning free kicks. Does that signify a broader tactical advantage for Arsenal, or was it more a case of individual brilliance?
Rice's talent is undeniable, but he was also playing in a system that allowed him to shine. The way Arsenal controlled the game gave him the platform to influence things. So it was individual brilliance combined with a well-functioning tactical system.
Do you think Real Madrid could have done anything differently during the game to try to get back into it? They didn't seem to make any significant adjustments.
It's easy to say in hindsight, but yeah, maybe some earlier substitutions, a change in formation, something to disrupt Arsenal's rhythm. It's something they'll probably regret.
So, looking at this result, do you think it signals a wider shift in tactics in European football? Are we seeing a greater emphasis on high pressing and the importance of set pieces?
It certainly makes a statement. It shows that high pressing and set pieces can be devastatingly effective. Other teams will be taking notes.
Okay, so looking ahead to the second leg at the Bernabeu, what kind of tactical adjustments do you think we might see from Real Madrid? They can't approach the game the same way, can they?
Definitely not. I expect a much more cautious approach. They might sit deeper, focus on regaining control in midfield, and look to hit Arsenal on the counterattack. And they'll have to improve their set piece defending dramatically.
And what about Arsenal? How do you think they'll approach the second leg with that 3-0 advantage?
It's a tricky one. They can't just sit back and defend for 90 minutes. But they also can't be too reckless. They'll need to find a balance.
So to sum up, what are the key tactical tweaks we might see from Real Madrid?
Expect a much tighter defense, a more disciplined midfield, and a focus on counterattacks. And, of course, they'll need to fix those set-piece issues.
Right, so to recap our deep dive into this remarkable Champions League match, Arsenal's 3-0 victory wasn't just a surprise result, it was a tactical masterclass. Their pressing was relentless, their set pieces were deadly, their defense was rock solid. They were simply better than Real Madrid in every department.
It was a dominant performance, one that will be studied by teams all over the world.
And on that note, I have a question for you. How on earth can Real Madrid overcome a 3-0 deficit against a team that's playing this well? What would they need to do to even have a chance of turning this tie around?
It's almost an impossible task. They'd need to change their entire approach, their mentality, everything. It would take a miracle.
So there you have it, a fascinating analysis of a truly remarkable game. If you enjoyed this AI-powered tactical breakdown and you want more in-depth discussions of the beautiful game, make sure you subscribe to the AI Goat podcast. Thanks for tuning in.